Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Yassine and welcome back to another episode of Tech Thoughts. Now, I haven't done one of these in a really long time. I believe this is episode 3 now. Anyway, this is just a series where I want to discuss thoughts that come in my head that are tech related or in the tech industry. And then you guys let me know whether you agree with me, disagree with me, or you just want to add a little bit more to my thought down below in the comment section, because I'm always over there answering questions. But today I wanted to talk about the biggest advantage that Tesla has that a lot of people don't really talk about. And when I say a lot of people really don't talk about it, it's because every time a new electric vehicle comes out or something that has to do with the electric vehicle, then usually people are talking about its price, the range, and either 0 to 60 time or how fast it charges. For instance, the Porsche Taycan that was just recently announced, all the headlines that you see online is just talking about its price, its range, and that it could charge at 270 kilowatts, which is an incredible feat that Porsche accomplished. But there is something that never hardly gets talked about, and that is the biggest advantage, in my opinion, that Tesla has, which is its supercharging network. And this is really important because what's the point of having a vehicle if you can't really travel with it? Now, this came to me a few weeks ago because my mother is in the market for a new car, and I think she's still in the market for a new car. And I was talking her into getting an electric vehicle because she drives a lot for her work and she doesn't really get reimbursed for her mileage or her gas or anything like that from her job. So she's thinking to buy something that's good on gas, or I was trying to talk her into getting an electric vehicle so that she could save a lot of money. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a Tesla because I own a Tesla Model 3, but she didn't want to spend like $40,000 on a car that she's going to use for work. So we started looking at other cars like the Chevy Bolt or the Nissan Leaf. And the biggest problem that we came across is that she couldn't use this to travel. So she goes to Canada, I would say about once to twice a month. And we live here in Ohio, so it's about a 3-hour drive, a little over 200 miles. Or 250 miles. I'll put it somewhere on the screen, the exact distance, but you leave Columbus, go through Findlay, go through Toledo, and then you make your way to Detroit, which is then you just cross the border. So I started looking at that route and started trying to figure out where she could charge if she uses, for instance, let's say a Nissan Leaf, which gets about 150 miles to 200, 220 or 250 mile range. And I don't think she could do that whole trip with a single charge, especially if there's going to be rain or she's going to be traveling in the winter months. And throughout that whole distance, all I found was one fast charger, which is from ChargePoint, a DC fast charge, which can pump up to 50 kilowatts, which would fill up the car anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, which is fine. But that charger is located at the University of Toledo in the parking lot. So you can't really bank your whole trip on one charger located at a university in a parking lot to see if it's going to be available the day that you go. And that's a big problem, at least here in the Midwest, East Coast. I know like in the West Coast in California, there's a lot of other options, like Electrify America is building out charging stations. It just hasn't reached this side of the country. But when you look at Tesla, they're located everywhere in the country. And there is a supercharging station within 150 miles of another supercharging station. And with a Model 3, you could easily get that without even being fully charged. And I think that's a big advantage that Tesla has because you don't have to worry about being able to fill up your car if you don't have a house charger or if you are traveling. And if you had come up to me or to anybody, I think back in 2012 when they first started building out these supercharging stations, and would have told me like, hey, we are going to build a supercharging network, and essentially it's supposed to compete with gas stations because that's the equivalent of gas stations for electric cars, I would have probably laughed at that person's face and said, you're crazy if you're going to try to compete with gas stations. Because when you think about it, just think about the amount of gas stations that are just here in the US, and you are telling me you're going to start building it out, supercharging station one by one to compete with that. It's unheard of. It's almost, you can hardly imagine that, or fathom that. But it's been done. You know, they started out with 1, next month 2 or 3, next month 4 and 5, and now we are in 2019. It's been 7 years, and by the end of the year, in the next 4 months, it's going to be 8 years. There's over 1,400 charging stations here in the US. And there, like I said, there's one every 150 miles of another supercharging station, and it's just comfortable to drive a Tesla right now. And you can't say the same thing about other electric vehicles, whether it's the Porsche Taycan or the Jaguar I-Pace, which is a really nice car. I've been inside it. I do like the interior. I just don't like the exterior and the way it slopes, but I wouldn't get that car because where would I charge it if I was to try to travel to, you know, just Chicago, 300 miles from where I live? It'd be really difficult. And that is just something that I wanted to discuss, and that's just the thought that's been bubbling in my head. I want to know what you guys think about this, because about a week ago I was at the mall charging at a charge point station, and there was an engineer there from California working on the charging station, fixing it. And this is one of the things we started talking about, and we talked about it for like a good half an hour. And he actually said that ChargePoint is reaching out to Tesla to try to see if they could work something out where they could put charge station, where they could put DC fast charge point stations at Tesla Superchargers. And that would be incredible, because now all these other car companies could charge next to the Teslas, and then anytime that there's an infrastructure that makes easier for you to travel with the EV, I think it makes it easier for the EV adoption to move forward. So that's just something that's been bubbling in my head for the last couple of weeks, and we're still in the search for a car for my mom. I'm still trying to find her an EV that she could use to still do that trip to Canada and still use here every single day today for work. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If there's something that you guys want to add, just let me know down below in the comment section if you guys agree with me or disagree with me. Anyway, thanks for watching. If it's your first time to my channel, definitely consider subscribing. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay plugged.